Hello? Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Sorry, we didn't notice that the call got hung up.
Yeah, there's some technical difficulties. The hearing examiner is having a hard time logging in, and at some
Okay.
point everything crashed, so people are coming back on slowly.
Okay.
I apologize about that.
We just hope we weren't, hung up to or very long. We're like, hello, are you still there? And then we're like, oh no, crap.
You haven't missed anything.
Oh, good. Other than that, is everything else going okay? So we know how the mood sets.
The examiner might have some more luck just calling in instead of trying to use the Blue Jeans app from the get-go. I don't know if that's helpful or not. Sorry.
Okay.
We can't hear you, Andrew Reeves.
Mute. Unmute. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. This
We
was.
can hear you.
All right. Sorry, folks. Give me a sec here. I'm trying to sign on for over 20 minutes. I just need a moment to pull things up on the other computer. Okay. Maybe. Okay. Think I have it set up. Okay. My apologies. Thank you. Okay. Phone is off. Okay. I think we're already recording, so thank you everyone for your patience. I'll get my gavel out and we'll get started, okay? Get my gavel out.
Perfect. Thank you.
And good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and call this session of the City of Bonney Lake Hearing Examiner to order. For the record, today is August 21st, 2023. now at about 1:20. The intent was to start at 1, but I, in particular, was having quite a few issues related to trying to get signed on. But now we have done so, and we will get started. So my name is Ada Reeves. I serve as the appointed hearing examiner for the city of Bonney Lake, and it will be my role today, in this case, to collect evidence in the form of exhibits and testimony to determine whether in these instances, we have 2 items on the agenda, and let me ask quickly, do we have an order we were planning on hopefully taking these in, Jennifer Robertson?
Well, I'm not sure who all is here. We could do them in either order. I had them as Predmore first and then Binning, but it depends on who is here. And someone that was here earlier is no longer here. So
okay. That's okay. Why don't we see who's here, and if folks are here, we will try to deal with those matters first. So
I believe most of our people here are here for the Binning property, if we want to start with that.
Okay. Oh, that's fine with me. Okay, so we'll plan on doing CityWorks 708 is what this is identified as, and this is the hearing determining whether or not this property should be declared as an unfit dwelling, and this relates to property at 7222 193rd Avenue East. And so we'll start with that matter first, and then if there are folks interested in the second matter or here for the second matter, that is property owned by Michael Predmore. CityWorks 682 is the number there, and that's 9512 203rd Avenue East. Also, that's for the same reason, but we'll do the other one first. So we'll start with the Binning property, and so ultimately, I'm going to turn to the city's attorney, who will sort of present what's going on and what the city's seeking, and then we'll see if there are folks associated with property ownership related to that property. So with that, if Jennifer Robertson, if you could introduce yourself, we'll get started on this first matter.
Thank you, Examiner Reeves. I'm Jennifer Robertson. I'm with the law firm Inslee, Bastosi & Ryder, and I am the city attorney for the city of Bonney Lake. This is a matter of an unfit dwelling for the Binning residence at 722 193rd Avenue East in Bonney Lake. Do you want me just to go ahead and do my opening statement and then call a witness? Fine. Okay, yep. I'll go ahead and do that. So running water is perhaps the most important utility for modern life. Everyone needs to drink water to survive, and clean water also ensures modern communities are free from many of the public health nightmares of yesteryear. Allowing people to wash their hands and their bodies, to remove waste from the home when a building is a critical component of having a habitable dwelling. When a building or premises lacks running water, it is not habitable, and the law recognizes this. Another essential is shelter. When a dwelling does not provide adequate shelter of the elements, it is not habitable. As you know, the law provides several ways in which a property may be declared unfit for human habitation. Under Bonney Lake Municipal Code 14-130-160 and Chapter 3580 of the Revised Code of Washington, you may determine that a dwelling, building, structure, or premises is unfit for human habitation or other use if conditions exist in such dwelling, building, structure, or premises which are dangerous or injurious to the health and safety of the occupants or other residents of Bonney Lake. This home is one such premises. The owner of record is Ronald Binning, and the tax parcel number for the record is 711-0000963. As a preliminary matter, before you is the city's complaint that my office drafted that was based on information and documents received from the city of Bonney Lakes. I move to admit the complaint into evidence.
Okay, and the complaint is admitted, and I believe the complaint had multiple attachments. Is that correct?
Correct, and I can ask for those to be admitted separately, or I can just ask for them all to be admitted. Okay.
No, I'll go ahead and admit them, but if you can just touch on what they are, or if you are already going to do that, that's fine. But I believe we've got historic information.
I'll go ahead and go through that just in my comments right now.
Okay.
The defendant, Binning is the owner of the property, and they have caused or allowed the dwellings on the premises to be unfit for human habitation in violation of the city code. Over a year ago, the city issued the first notice of violation to Binning and to the current residents of the property, and served it by mail, according to the code. A copy of that is Exhibit 1. That's the notice of violation dated July 5th, 2022. In that notice of violation, the city noted that there was no garbage service to the property. There were several large piles of trash, refuse, and rubbish on the property. There were roof repairs or alterations without permits. One of the residents, Zoe Marshall, contacted the city to create a code enforcement work plan to address the issue in the notice of violation. On August 16th, 2022, Ms. Marshall and the city agreed to the code enforcement work plan to remove the trash, restart trash collection, remove junk vehicles, and obtain a re-roof permit. That work plan is Exhibit 2. Work was not completed under the work plan. Therefore, on March 31st of this year, 2023, the city issued another notice of violation and order, which was served according to the code. That is Exhibit 3. In the second notice of violation, the city noted that there was no water service to the property and ordered the owners to restore and maintain water service to the property within 30 days. Without the water service, there's no running water for bathing or using the bathroom, taking away waste, and that is a violation of the International Property Maintenance Code, Section 502, which was adopted by the city of Bonney Lake. That notice of violation and order also advised that failure to restore the water service within 30 days would result in the city pursuing the declaration that the building was unfit for human habitation, which we have done. The notice also stated that the failure to respond would cause the city to deem the violation committed, and a failure to restore water service may subject them to civil penalties of $1,000 a day. There was no response to that notice of violation, and therefore on May 17th, the city issued the complaint that is in front of you for the notice of potential unfit dwelling. And that was also served, and that is Exhibit 4. The owners were notified and the occupants were notified in accordance with the code. And even though the structure is, in addition to the lack of water service, there is an open roof, which is covered with tarps. The interior is exposed to the elements, and the roof appears to be close to a cave-in situation, which is unsafe, and therefore the property is unfit. The city is asking you to do three things. First, to enter an order determining that the property is unfit due to the roof and the lack of water. 2, to order the defendants to abate the violations. And 3, for an order for cost of abatements, including attorney's fees, to be assessed against the real property as a tax. As you know, the city, and the complaint was served on the owners and occupants by mail and by posting. When this hearing was set over, we also gave notice that the hearing was set over. I don't know, Mr. Reeves, if you have a copy of our notice of it having been set over. We can certainly provide that and make it another exhibit.
I don't believe I have that. I think I have everything else, but just in case, I'll have the city send that, meaning that this had initially been scheduled for last month.
Yes.
And because of medical issues on my end, it got moved, and I appreciate folks.
Well, we will have Shaylee go ahead and
things
email
on the
you.
fly, but we'll make sure we get that.
Okay, we'll have Shaylee email that. It was sent on July 18th.
Okay. And then,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so essentially, to be clear, we have a few things going on today, to the extent that we have, there are violations that have been alleged under the municipal code, and not every violation of the municipal code warrants, having a building declared unfit. We agree on that, correct? That said, in this case, some of those violations, which have never been, according to the city, appropriately addressed, are the types of things that ultimately, in the city's view, would warrant having a structure declared unfit. So today, ultimately, the city is seeking, as you noted, three things for me. Essentially, one, under state law and the municipal code, have me, the hearing examiner, declare the structure unfit for human habitation. That's one thing. Two, essentially agree that there are violations and that they ought to be abated. And I guess my question there too is the city also hoping that were I to do that, that I grant the city authority to abate those violations itself if they don't get abated? I mean, that's part of the deal, I guess, under the unfit dwelling portion of state law and the municipal code, and often why a jurisdiction does seek having a structure declared unfit for human habitation. So I just wanted to get clarification on that. And then finally, clearly seeking costs. And partially why I asked the last question is because then the city would seek, reimbursement of its costs to take care of the matter, as it were. So I'll let you speak to those questions, Jennifer Robertson.
Thank you. And Shaylee, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe we're asking for you to give the city authority to go in and abate ourselves. We just would like the property to be closed and vacated and have them abate it. We would like it to stay vacated until it is abated. Shaylee, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That is what we're asking at this time.
Okay. And I'm going to have Shaylee be sworn in because she's not an attorney, and that was on the lines of testimony, and I'm sure we'll hear from her otherwise. But Shaylee Wilkinson, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
And if you could just spell your name and explain who you are.
Shaylee Wilkinson, ShayleyWilkinson. I am the code enforcement officer for the city of Bonney Lake.
Okay, and you affirm that what you just spoke about, essentially what the city is seeking, that was the truth, obviously. So essentially, as I understand it, is, the city is essentially not asking me to say it's okay to go on and try to fix these things yourself at the moment. It's saying, have it declared unfit, order that nobody lives there, ensure nobody lives there, keep it properly, set aside. I'm trying to think what the right word is. Properly secured. That's the word I'm looking for. Properly secured so that no one can again go in and live on the property at the moment. And then have the property owner or someone, related to the property abate those violations, and then any costs that are being sought right now are sort of related to the process that's occurred up to now. Does that sound accurate?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. I'll let Jennifer Robertson go back to her.
Thank you, hearing examiner. So I wanted, now is perfect that you just swore Ms. Wilkinson in, because I was just going to offer her testimony. So why don't we just go ahead and get started with that. Ms. Wilkinson, how long have you been a code enforcement officer with Bonney Lake?
Since May 16th of 2022.
Okay, and in that position, do you have access to documents made in the regular course of business at or near the time of the relevant acts or conditions or events that are retained as part of the city's records related to code enforcement?
Yes, I do.
And are you familiar with the code enforcement case that we're here today on regarding 7222 193rd Avenue, Bonney Lake?
Yes, I am.
And are you familiar with Exhibit 1 to the city's complaint?
Yes.
And that's already been admitted into evidence, so I don't need to necessarily go through that again.
Okay.
What is the date? What is the date of the notice of violation?
July 5th of 2022.
And how was it served?
Through the mail. First class mail.
Did the city receive any communication from anyone regarding the notice of violation?
Not immediately, no.
So before the appeal period expired on that, did you have any contact?
No, not before the appeal period.
Okay, and then are you familiar with Exhibit 2 of the city's complaint?
Yes.
What is the date of that work plan?
It was signed on August 16th of 2022 and gave them until February 16th of 2023 to abate the violations.
And was any work completed under that work plan?
There was quite a bit of trash removed, But also during that time is when the water was shut off for the final time.
Was all,
No,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, the water was shut off in November of 2022 and has not been back on since then.
Okay. And it's still off today.
Yes.
And was the roof, one of the things on the work plan was to get a re-roof permit. Did that ever happen?
No, there have been
And
no
is the-
permits for this.
Okay. And is the roof still open to the elements?
Yes.
Now there's a second notice of violation in order. What is the date of that one? This is Exhibit 3.
That one was March 31st of 2023 regarding
And
the water.
Okay, this was due to the water shut off. Has the city received any communication from the property owner or occupants in response to that notice of violation?
No, not within the appeal period. The first contact I had with anybody residing there was the date of the last hearing that got rescheduled.
And that was July 17th?
July 17th.
Okay, and that was the first time you'd heard anything?
Yes, I'm trying to remember timelines. I had checked in at the expiration of the work plan that Zoe Marshall had signed. I checked in around that time period and learned that she had recently, within I think a week, had passed away. And I had a conversation with her daughter, who is here today, and she is, I believe, working through the probate process, but she does not live on site. She doesn't live in state and has not authorized anyone to be there or to speak on her behalf regarding the property, to my knowledge.
Okay. So then I'm looking at the notice of potential unfit dwelling. What is the date on that one? That's Exhibit 4. What is the date on that?
May 17th of 2023.
And how was that served?
Through the mail, first class mail.
And then you didn't hear from anyone until the last hearing date of July 17th?
Correct.
And are you familiar with the complaint that the city filed in this matter?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, are all of the facts asserted in the complaint true and correct?
Yes.
And how was the complaint served?
We posted it on site and mailed it first class and certified and recorded it on the title.
And can you describe what the city has done to enforce the city code in this case?
We have, so going through the exhibits is what we have been doing to try and gain voluntary compliance. We had a brief stint where we thought Zoe was going to try and clean up the property, and then with her passing, we've had to move on with the code enforcement process of having it deemed unfit for lack of voluntary compliance.
And when the last hearing was canceled, did you send notice of the rescheduled hearing?
I did, through mail.
Okay, and have you provided a copy of that to the hearing examiner? Or
I
you
have
will?
not. I thought we had sent it to him, but I will get that to him today.
And I guess we would ask that to be admitted as Exhibit 5.
Yeah, and there is a chance it was sent. I just, I definitely have the packet with all of the substantive information, and in the chaos of trying to get signed on, I was unable to find it. But so,
Sure.
Would you like me to send that right now or when we're done?
when we're done is fine. I will. I'm aware that you've testified that you provided notice that the hearing was moved, and I'll ensure that it is included as one of the exhibits that is attached to the complaint. Additional exhibit.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
And so just one or two more questions. Shaylee, do you know what cost the city has incurred to date on this matter?
It's roughly $1,288, I believe, is where we're at for attorney's fees.
And that was as of the end of July.
Yes.
All right. So I don't have any other questions at this time.
Okay. And I guess for me, the hearing examiner question I had just was ultimately if, I guess, what would happen if, so there's a probate process going on, but are there any other, who else may own the property? Are there other property owners that we're aware of? Does that have any impact? And that can be a question for either Shaylee or Attorney Jennifer Robertson. How that impacts next steps and things.
So from my understanding, Mr. Benning, whose name is still on the property, passed away in May of 2021. And I'm told that he left everything in a will to Zoe Marshall, but nothing was ever legally established and put in her name. And upon her passing, it would be inherited by her daughter. I have not seen any of these documents, but that's what I'm told.
Okay.
So I believe she's facing a double probate.
Okay. And
So, if I could add on to that,
Attorney Jennifer Robertson, please.
thank you. So we understand that this is complicated for the property owner or whoever that may ultimately be, which we think is the daughter of Zoe Marshall. At this point, and Shaylee should confirm this, there are people living in the home. She did testify that the daughter is out of state, has not given anyone authority to live there. So the city's primary concern, since the roof is open to the elements, as Shaylee testified, and there's no water service, is we would like to make sure that the home is vacated. If you issue an order ordering it vacated and abated, then the city would have the ability to enforce the vacation and to trespass anyone that is attempting to live there after the date for getting the property vacated has passed. So we just don't want to have any more human lives at risk with this structure. And that's our primary concern at this point.
Okay. Okay. So in less complicated matters, traditionally we would, first off, let me ask, were there other witnesses, Jennifer Robertson, that the city intended on calling?
The city has no other witnesses, but if someone else testified, we'd like the chance to ask questions of those.
So maybe you can speak to this too. Traditionally, for these matters, this is not the same as an open record hearing, meaning that only those witnesses that are called by the parties, only those folks are really able to participate. I don't strongly object to hearing from others, but the kind of the rules are what the rules are traditionally. But in this case, the confusion is, do we have anyone that is sort of thinking they're speaking on behalf of the property? That would be my next question.
Yes, you do.
Okay, and who will that be at the moment?
My name is Diana Cahalan.
Okay, so this is not a neighbor. This is someone related to the property. So I'm going to swear you in. I don't know if you're there. I can't see where the noise came from, but
Yes.
I'm envisioning your hands up. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in any testimony you give here today?
I do.
And if you could just state and then spell your name for me.
I'm Diana Cahalan, DiannaCahalin, and I am a current resident of said property.
Okay. Current resident. Great. Okay. So thank you for being here. And so essentially, you'll have.
Interrupt you, but there's. I was going to say I'm representing two other people here as well.
Okay, that live on the property?
Yes.
Okay. So I think probably the most straightforward way to do this then would be to sort of have you testify, tell us what's going on in your opinion. If you're sort of serving as, I'm not going to have 3 or 4 different people act in the representative capacity. You're saying you're serving as the sort of representative, and then there's some folks in addition that you're helping. Is that right?
Yeah. Correct.
Correct.
There's one.
Okay, so theoretically, someone would be able to ask questions of Shaylee Wilkinson, which would be what we call cross-examination. That would just be the representative person, doesn't have to be an attorney, but if that's you, if you had cross-examining questions of Shaylee Wilkinson, meaning, clarifying what you heard in the back and forth between attorney Jennifer Robertson and Shaylee Wilkinson, now would probably be the best time to do that. Then we'll move to sort of have you testify and then see if Jennifer Robertson has questions for you. And then we'll have the other folks that you're representing, you can call them as witnesses and see if Jennifer Robertson has questions for them. Does that make sense in terms of process?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay, so did you have any specific questions for Shaylee Wilkinson, the code enforcement officer?
I'm just curious if the place was found uninhabitable, that means that the city would be coming in to vacate the premises. Does that mean to be tearing down the house as well in the near future?
Not at this time. It would be to have everybody removed from the house. The property would be, it would be deemed uninhabitable, meaning nobody can be there.
Okay.
And I assume, hearing examiner Reeves here, Shaylee Wilkinson, were I to produce that order, that, is it that maybe the you and the sheriff or someone just goes and makes sure everyone safely departs, and then however it needs to be secured, it's secured, and that's that first step. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. So with that, Diana Cahalan, I'll let you continue if you had other questions there.
I think really that's the only question I have. I don't know how long it will take for the property to go through probate twice until it eventually reaches Janelle. But my concern as far as that would go would be, if it took longer than anticipated, the city would be impatient and wanting to come in and tear it down and incurring a lot of costs that Janelle would eventually have to pay, and I'm trying to avoid that for her.
And maybe Jennifer Robertson or Shaylee Wilkinson can speak to this. I guess my understanding would be that theoretically, at least in terms of getting, the major reason we're here today in front of the hearing examiner is a life, health, safety issue, which is if I agree that it is unfit for people to live in, those folks are going to need to leave, and that has nothing to do with probate. It has nothing to do with how long all of that takes. What ultimately happens in terms of who the property owner is and fixing the problems, while important, that is something that I think if Janelle's the one that ends up owning it in the long run, that the city can work with and figure out how to move forward. And that could take a while, fully understood. But the idea is we just can't have folks living in a property that has no water service or roof while we're waiting for all of that to happen, plus figuring out who owns it and next steps. But Shaylee Wilkinson, does that sound accurate to you?
Yes, that sounds correct.
And anything to add, Jennifer Robertson, legally on that? No. Okay. So sorry to interrupt, but Diana Cahalan, is that answer that question or?
Yes, that answers that question.
Okay. Did you have other testimony you wanted to provide?
I do.
Okay.
I kind of wrote some down so that I wouldn't try to hit all the points. I'm the current resident of said property. I've tried to restore water service, but have been unable to do so because I am not the listed property owner. And so they've indicated that once we had the death certificate to show that he was deceased, that they could put it and they could transfer the water service into my name or one of the other residents. So Zoe gave me some stuff before she left, and I went through all of it, and I found the death certificate for Ronald Binning to prove that he's not the current owner, and since he's deceased, so that we can facilitate that. And it's the same thing for the garbage service. They have Ronald Binning on the paperwork that he's the property owner, so he needs to make the decisions. But since he's not here, and now I have proof that he's not here, then we can facilitate the garbage reconnection as well.
So, just so I understand, am I correct in thinking you actually would like to stay on the property if you can get?
Yes.
I think the roof is a problem too, which the city spoke to, but you're saying,
Well,
if,
I want to
Go.
address all of the issues that they have. So those are the two main issues. The roof being an issue as well. There is no open holes in the roof. Just so everybody knows, there are places in the roof that have leaked, and therefore the plywood has gotten wet and sagged down. So it may appear like it's ready to collapse, but it's not. The structure is fine. Just some roof plywood needs to be replaced, and then the roofing around that. So and actually, I already have the plywood to replace on the roof, and I'm just waiting to have the money to buy the 3-tab shingles so that I can have that repair done.
Okay. I'll let you go ahead and all the testimony you wanted to provide, and then I'll see if Jennifer Robertson has questions for you when you are done, Diana.
Okay. I'd like to finish the statement that I kind of wrote. I moved in around Thanksgiving last year. Zoe needed help cleaning up the place and with the bills. In early February, Zoe left for vacation, leaving the property in my care until her return. On vacation, she was in an accident and passed away. She leaves everything to her daughter, Janelle, who lives out of state. The property shall go through probate twice before it becomes rightfully hers. I feel it's my responsibility to take care of the place as best I can until such time that she takes full ownership. It is for her to decide what she wants done with it. I believe that it is not in her best interest to let the city condemn the property and subsequently demolish it, and therefore incur the hefty bill that I referred to earlier. In my opinion, it's better to have the house occupied by responsible and trusted tenants rather than to let it sit vacant. Sitting vacant, it would be a magnet for the riffraff that roam the neighborhoods looking for an easy target. They would be sneaking around trying to get in when they think they can get away with it, looking to pull the wire out of the walls and etc., destroying the place. That would not be good for the neighborhood as a whole. We worked really hard, and the yard is clean for the most part. We still have several items staged just inside the front fence in anticipation of future dump runs. That can get kind of expensive too, because there was a lot of stuff here that needed to leave, and a lot of it has, but we're not quite finished with that yet. But there is the expense of every time we run to the dump. Like I said, now I have a certificate of death for Ron, so I should be able to get the water and the garbage service going this week. The roof is scheduled for repairs, and the structure is sound, just some of the plywood and the shingles need to be replaced. I'm assuming responsibility for the repair and the upkeep until such time that it can be legally transferred to the rightful owner, who's Janelle, Zoe's daughter. Zoe made it my responsibility when she left, and I'm just trying to abide by her wishes. I also retrieved 2 dogs after the accident, 2 of Zoe's dogs that were with her in the accident. I retrieved them so that they could come home and hopefully have be less traumatized by the events. This is their home. They need the security of the stable home as well. And for their well-being and mine, I request an extension of the deadline for fulfillment of the utilities, as I have just located the death certificate needed to accomplish this. The roof repairs are tentatively scheduled. I'm just waiting for the funds. So I feel like I've covered all the bases and hopefully addressed all of the issues that the city is concerned with. And I request that you deny their request for whatever you call it, what we're doing right now.
Sure. And to be clear, the city is not requesting that I say go ahead and tear this structure down. They're saying they're requesting I declare it an unfit dwelling, meaning until problems are solved and fixed, no one could live there. But with that, I'm going to see if Attorney Jennifer Robertson has any questions of you. And this is sort of you wearing your witness hat. She's providing cross-examination based on the testimony you just provided, Diana Kaelin.
Okay.
But with that, Jennifer Robertson, go ahead.
I have one more thing to add, if it's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, please.
The time that we have that we've been living here, we have provided our own sanitation by bringing water in and making sure that all the toilets are flushed and the dishes are washed and that kind of stuff. So it's not like we haven't had. It's not like we haven't had any water the whole time because we've been providing it for ourselves, bringing it in.
Okay. Attorney Jennifer Robertson, you have cross-examination?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Okay. So, is it Kaelin? Ms. Kaelin? Kaelin. Okay. I want to pronounce it correctly. When did you obtain the death certificate?
Zoe gave me a copy of Ron's death certificate before she left for vacation. So
Okay,
I received it like end of January or so, but I misplaced it for quite some time and have just relocated it.
All right. And how many people are living in the house besides you?
3 other people.
And who are those people?
Karen Hellenstein?
Sorry,
you
you're breaking it. I heard Karen Allenstein.
Hauenstein. Hauenstein.
And who else? You said there's 4 people total plus 2 dogs. Who else is living there, Ms. Kaelin?
AJ Williams.
And who else?
Carlin Redmond.
And Wilkinson testified that it's her understanding that none of the people living in the home have the right to be there per Zoe's daughter. Do you have a lease? Do any of you have a lease or a rental agreement?
AJ has a lease, but when I moved in as her roommate. I do not have a lease, but I was here to help her out with cleaning the yard and all the physical things that she couldn't do because she was disabled, and to help pay the bills because she could not pay them herself on her Social Security.
So who is AJ's lease between? Who are the parties? Was that with Zoe or with Mr. Benning?
With Zoe.
With Zoe.
And does Arlen or Karen have a lease?
The lease and with AJ included Karen.
Okay.
Carlin, we don't know for sure exactly what his
I'm not sure if Carlin had one or not.
He was the one that showed up for the first hearing.
Okay. And were all four of these people living in the home with Zoe?
Yes.
And who are they paying rent to now?
No one.
So no one is paying rent?
There's no one really to pay rent to.
Okay. So you testified about wanting to get the roof redone. Have you or anyone that you are aware of applied for a permit to do that?
No, and that's another one of those hiccups because the property owner is supposed to be the one requesting a permit. Actually, when you repair a roof, if you're just repairing the 3-tab, we could do that without a permit. But it's because we're replacing the plywood, we have to have a permit. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not the building official, but my understanding is that yes, you do need a permit, and the notice of violations and the work orders required an actual permit to do the work. So, do you plan to apply for a permit?
I do.
And if I can break in with a question for our code enforcement officer, but Shelley Wilkinson, I assume at a minimum, because the roof has been identified through the code enforcement process, the NOV, among other things, that an inspection would have to occur. And at that point, I think the building official could say, yes, you need a permit or you don't to do these things, but at a minimum, someone from, with a building official, someone with engineering expertise from the city is going to have to come see what's going on, get on the property and look closely. Is that an accurate understanding?
Yeah, so typically with a re-roof permit, we don't have to do an on-site inspection beforehand. A lot of times, if you hire a company, they'll just apply for the permit, tell us what they're doing, and then we do a final inspection. In cases where people are in violation and maybe need help knowing what they need to do, we often will offer to come do. I will grab a building inspector and we'll go do an on-site, and he can tell them if they need anything. I'm not a building inspector, but I believe it will need a whole new roof.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. And
Of
I'll
course.
let Attorney Robertson continue with her questions.
Certainly. So, just a couple more, Ms. Cahalan. Is there water service to the property today?
Not today.
Is there garbage service to the property today?
No, not today. But like I said, I just have the death certificate. Like I got it yesterday, and so it shouldn't take us long to facilitate those.
Okay, I'm confused. I thought you said it was given to you in January.
It was, but I misplaced it, and a lot of things have been misplaced during my move. So
okay, I don't have any other questions for Ms. Cahalan.
Okay. And then, Ms. Cahalan, do you have others you wanted to have testify?
I don't know if they really need to testify. The power is already in Karen's name. So apparently they didn't require the death certificate for that to be changed.
Okay, so there weren't others there. I'm gonna give Janelle an opportunity again. There's normally a little bit more of a process, but I recognize this is very unique in terms of who owns things, who's involved. But I just want to make sure you didn't have others you planned on calling on there, Diana.
I have something to add.
Okay, first.
I believe if AJ Williams has a lease, he can put the utility billing in his name without a death certificate.
because the bills were in Ron's name.
Right, but if you are a renter and have a lease, you can set up an account.
Well,
I just
I,
throwing that out there.
but my understanding is the lease for AJ was with Zoe, not with Ronald. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So, okay. Sorry. So I think just to make sure, I was asking Diana Cahalan, making sure you had nothing further you wanted to add before we move on.
I think we've covered all the bases.
Okay. And just want to make sure that, have you been in contact with Shaylee Wilkinson? Does she have your contact information?
No, actually, I was unaware of the proceedings that were going on until yesterday. Actually,
So,
somebody.
Shaylee, can
so then
you?
I went down.
What is a good? So Shaylee can give a phone number right now or an email. Maybe we'll just have her give both. But what I would suggest is, you're going to want to be in touch so that you and the folks there on the property kind of are aware when things are happening and next steps. So, Shaylee, are you able to give a phone number and an email?
Yeah, I'm gonna send it in the chat so people have it, if that works, or I can say it out loud, whichever.
That's fine.
Okay.
So
Ooh, I just sent my.
Yeah. So her email's in the chat. I don't want to make folks give their emails, over the public forum, but Shaylee, this is her employee email for the city of Bonney Lake. So it's wilkinsonS.cobl.us, and then a phone number is 253-447-4352. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to Janelle, who's been identified as the daughter of one of the people that theoretically own the property, and we'll hear from her. And then after that, ultimately I'll produce, orders, decisions, and I just want to make sure folks receive them so that they know what's going on. So, did that make sense, Jennifer Robertson? Are you tracking with what I'm trying to do in terms of an order? This is, again, not your standard, but we'll make do. We'll try to solve and get to the bottom of how to move forward. So, okay, I got the nod. So with that, if we can unmute Janelle or have Janelle unmute herself. Hi, thank you for being here. And I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
Thank you. And if you could just state and spell your name for me.
My name is Janelle Hansen, Janelle, Hansen, Hansen.
Great, thank you. And okay, so Zoe was your mother, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, sorry for your loss, and we don't need to get into that. But if you can just speak to kind of where we're at and what you're trying to do and what your stance on all this is, that would be great.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, at the time that my mother passed away, I'm a military family. I was also in the midst of a state moving across states. I currently live in Illinois. I do not live in or near Washington. That is my home of record. Washington State is my home of record. I just am a resident of Illinois due to military. My mother passed away on February 15th, and with that, she had most of her belongings. Well, I won't say most, because she had a lot of belongings, but she had a lot of paperwork and things in the vehicle with her. She was in a rollover single car accident where she passed away. A lot of her belongings were run over and spread throughout and strewn throughout the road, including documentation, etc. I returned home in April for a celebration of life for my mother, to try to view the property and to try to gather as many belongings as I could. In the midst of that, my own belongings were packed up in May from my home, and I did not receive those until a couple weeks ago myself. So the probate process, I have spoken with attorneys and am compiling the documentation necessary to start that probate process. But what Ms. Shaley described is accurate. It is a double probate because my mother never really even started the process. There's just a will filed underneath for Ron. And she did not have a will herself, so I am just her only child. So it inheritance down to me. So as far as that probate process, I don't know where that is, or how, or not. I know where it is, but I don't know how long that is going to take. From what I do know about probate, is it's probably going to be a very long time, unfortunately. The people who are living there, I do know who they are. Do I know them? No. Have I given them permission to be there? No. Um, do I know of a lease or anything? I don't know what my mom agreed to. What I do know is that the only person with permission to be on that property from my mom was Diana, Miss Callahan. Further that, I don't know the details. And so really, I don't know. I'm unable to go to the property to help maintain it at this time. And I'm unable to go and check on it, unfortunately. And I am informed that they have cleaned up the property, that they've removed the big RV in the front, and that they are trying to work towards it. But as far as knowing that for certainty, I don't, because unfortunately, I'm just not able to be present myself.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jennifer Robertson, do you have questions of Janelle Hansen? Maybe.
I'd mute myself. Yeah. I didn't want to ruffle the paper, so I've been muting myself. I guess my only question is that this hearing today is the first time you've heard of any lease being in existence. You haven't seen a lease then. Is that correct?
I have not, no.
And are you getting paid rent for the property?
No.
I don't really have any other questions other than that. Thank you.
Well, so I guess question for me, Janelle Hansen. I mean, I'm unclear as to the original property owner. You know,
Ron, Mr. Bennett.
Ron. Yeah. So, to the best of our knowledge, Ron had a will, and that will identified your mother as who would receive the property. Correct?
Yeah, she was his sole beneficiary.
Okay, so that one might go a little quicker, I guess, if there's an actual will that's being probated. And then in your case, your mother did not have a will, but the way that this works, we call it intestate, but theoretically as the heir, once they sort out thing one, they'll move on to thing two. And you're correct, this could take a while. But let's just say in a perfect world, we knew you are the property owner. We get to that point. What would you like to have happen? I mean, do you want anyone on there? Do you not want anyone on there? I'm just trying to get a sense of where things stand.
I would like to have happen what my mother said many times that she wanted to happen, and that was to clear the place and start over afresh.
Okay, by clear the place, you mean have no one else there and potentially even bulldoze structures and things. I am not ordering that, anyone. We are not at that point. I just want to make sure, but I'm trying to understand your answer.
Right, yeah. Like just clear the place. As far as what that exactly entailed, that unfortunately left with my mom.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you. And then and I'll go back to Jennifer Robertson momentarily, but I just wanted to say, Janelle, have you been in touch with Shaylee Wilkinson and the city attorney? Have you been in touch with folks living on the property? Sounds like you at least have some contact with Diana Cahill, but can you just speak to that so we kind of know where things stand and being in the loop?
Yeah, so I've had some contact with Shaylee. We've had just a couple of phone calls, and she informed me of the hearing today. Well, she informed me of the last hearing, and then I happened to call her, and there happened to be a hearing today. So I have not had any contact with Miss Robertson. As far as contact with people who are living at the property, when I was there present in person, there were several individuals there claiming to live there. I know that one of those individuals recently passed away himself. As far as who's actually living there, I don't know. I know that Carlin Redmond has informed me that he wanted to kind of stake a claim on the property, whatever that meant. AJ and Karen, they informed me that they were going to be living there. Oh, excuse me, let me go upstairs. My son just got home.
No problem. I know how this goes.
Yeah. And so apologies. As far
You're
as
fine.
AJ and
Take a
Karen,
breath.
I don't have much contact with them. I know their social medias.
Okay.
And then I have Diana's phone number.
Okay. Well, you have someone on the property. Sounds like Diana's the one you've had the most
Hit or
interaction
miss,
with.
but yes.
Hit or miss. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure moving forward, I'm going to produce something, and I want to make sure you get it and that you know what's going on. And, essentially the only way, no matter what happens moving forward, there's going to need to be communication, between you, Shaylee Wilkinson, potentially attorney Jennifer Robertson, and one or others on that property, no matter what happens. So I just wanted to make sure. It sounds like you at least now have communication with Shaylee. I think Jennifer Robertson will be able to get in touch with you because of that. I don't know if ultimately the attorney Robertson needs to talk to any attorneys you're involved with in terms of probate to try to understand the property moving forward. I'm not going to dictate that. And I know how complicated these things can get. And I know it's not my job ultimately to determine, that particular issue. But with that, I think Attorney Robertson may have some questions for you, and I'm going to let her ask those if she does.
Okay.
I just had one follow-up based on the dialogue you had with the hearing examiner Reese. So then are you supportive of, would you be supportive of the city's request to have the property vacated?
That's a really
have the
hard
hearing examiner
question for me
order it
to
vacated?
answer.
Okay.
That's a hard question for me to answer. Would I personally live there or deem it appropriate for me or my family to live there? No. But I do know the people who live there, my mother cared about, and so I apologize. Still fresh stuff. But I do know that my mother cared about the people who live there, so that is a very hard question for me to answer black and white. So I apologize.
All right, fair enough. That was my only question. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And Janelle, thank you so much. Yeah, I'll give you a moment, but you didn't have anything further. And if not, you can just kind of say, no, I'm good.
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, really appreciate it. Thank you. And I don't believe Janelle had any other witnesses. Again, hard to know who's standing in what role here. But do we have others related to this matter that we're aware of? Again, for folks that might be neighbors, this is challenging. This is not the kind of hearing where we do hear from the neighbors, generally speaking. Can you verify that, Attorney Jennifer Robertson? My understanding of both the municipal code and the hearing examiner rules are that, unlike a land use hearing, that's not how this would work. But
I agree with that. It would just be generally the property owner, but because that's in a state of flux,
right? Okay. So, Shaylee, are you able to tell who any other folks are involved here? I don't want to make sure we've missed anyone.
There is one phone number, the 0271. I'm not sure who that is.
Okay.
If they're here for this one or the next one. The name Jay, I believe, is a neighbor, but I'm not sure if she wants to speak or if she is just listening in.
Okay. Well, why don't we check with the 0271 number real quick. So if you're the phone number ending in 0271, if you can unmute yourself and just let us know what your interest in today's hearing is. Okay, no luck thus far. And then if you're the person identified as Jay, I know you were on the chat feature earlier. But are we correct in our understanding that you're a neighboring property owner or someone in the vicinity?
That is correct.
Okay. And appreciate you being here. And if you provide your contact information to the city, we can get you my decision order when it gets produced. But in terms of involvement today, having not been identified by one of the parties, we're not going to hear general witness testimony. But I do appreciate you listening in. Okay,
I understand. Thank you.
great. Okay, so the person that was 0271 we didn't hear from. So I believe then we have heard from those that intended on participating as far as we can tell. Is that right, Shaylee Wilkinson?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So what I'm going to do at this point, again, just because it is challenging with those in, how this is all working out, but Diana Cahalan, on behalf of, we'll call them folks on the property at the moment, I'm going to see if you have any final thoughts, and this isn't meant to be testimony. This is sort of you wearing your representative hat and sort of what you would like to argue or say and like to see happen. Okay.
Okay. I would like to see our timeline get extended a little bit so we can come into compliance, so that the city would be satisfied that there is no health and safety issues here. The people that are living here, it would be a challenge for them to find somewhere else to be. And we're caring for Zoe's dogs here as well, and I would not like to see them upended and have to go somewhere else, because they would be very confused.
Okay.
I just think it's in everybody's best interest for us to bring it up to code, so that there would be no worries until such time that it actually lands in Janelle's lap.
Okay. Great. Thank you. And then Attorney Robertson, any sort of closing argument as it were on this first matter?
Yeah, thank you. The city, as you heard from the testimony, I think it's undisputed that there is no water service to the house. It's also undisputed that there's structural issues with the roof, whether it has openings or whether its plywood is bowing down because of the leaking. It does not provide adequate roofing. I did not hear in the tenant's testimony that there is any imminence to the intention to fix the roof. She's had the death certificate since January, and the water has not been turned back on. So at this point, we believe that the city has met its burden of proof by preponderance of the evidence to show that the property is unfit. Does not mean that no one can live there forever, but we are asking that it be declared unfit due to the lack of water, due to the roof issues, and that the property owner and or tenants be ordered to obtain a roofing permit, fix the roof, reconnect to water, or to close the property and vacate it as soon as possible. And we're also asking that the city's costs, which were attorney's fees of $12.88 through July, and maybe another 2 hours today, so that would add another $600. So that'd be $1,888 be awarded to the city for this process.
And
that is
well, on that final, in terms of costs, what does that mean in the long run, right? Meaning we don't really know who owns the property yet. Is this meaning as a lien on the property?
Correct, as same as general taxes against the property, as is allowed under the statute for unfit dwellings.
I assumed as much, but I thought I would ask.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
okay,
you. No,
great.
I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, it can get real tricky with situations. Well, this is, I'll say, unique in my experience. Not an unfit dwelling, but the thing A, thing B, a lot of not fun things, which is terrible. Okay, so I believe I have what I need in terms of, I'll need to think about what I've heard and look at the evidence that was provided and ultimately produce a decision and orders. But I believe, folks, again, if you haven't been in contact with Shaylee Wilkinson, I would suggest as soon as we're done, send her an email is probably the best, quickest way to ensure that she has, your email and a way to get a hold of you, so that when I produce, and it says what it says, she'll be able to provide that to everyone so that folks know what the next steps are. So I recognize it's a challenging situation. I certainly have to think this through, but I do really appreciate Diana taking charge for your group there. I appreciate Janelle clearly busy with family and a move and everything else that's been going on. It's sad to hear about, but thank you for being able to participate. Maybe it was good I was unable to participate a month ago. Now we've got everyone to participate that wanted to. So I do thank folks for being able to redo this today, a month later. But my intent here is in the next week or so to put together my decision in order that clearly delineates what the next steps are. So with that, we are going to conclude this first matter. And we do have one other matter scheduled. I'm not going to sign off because I'm terrified I'll mess it up, but I figure if folks need a quick 5-minute break to use the facilities, it's been an hour and a half. Why don't we plan on coming back at about 2:35? And if you were on the first matter, feel free to exit. I won't be offended, but I appreciate you being here. So we'll come back in a few minutes. Thanks, folks. And I'm definitely not signing off. And hello, welcome back. Okay, I see the room there. I don't hear anyone else at the moment. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So we are back on the record. Have we started? Are we still recording or started recording? If you'd like to start, please do.
It is recording.
It is recording. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay.
It is. Sorry, it took me a second.
Oh, no, that's fine. Okay, so we're back on the record here. City of Bonney Lake hearing examiner. This is hearing examiner Andrew Reeves, and we had one item after some tech issues that we addressed earlier, and now we are here related to this is property, I believe, at 9512 203rd Avenue East. Or is that just? Yeah, I believe that's right. So also related to, like the last hearing, a request to have this property declared as an unfit structure. So we've already heard from others, but Attorney Jennifer Robertson is here on behalf of the city. Do we have folks here on behalf of this property that we're aware of, Shaylee Wilkinson?
It looks like we have a new number, the 4198, but I'm not sure who that is.
Okay, why don't we see if we can determine who that might be. If you're the person whose phone number ends in 198, if you can try to unmute yourself. We're just trying to determine who might be participating. And I believe with the call-in, is it *6 on to unmute or *9?
Button for them. I'll see if I can unmute them.
Okay.
You should be unmuted. Oh, they left. They left. Okay.
Okay, we scared them off. Well, with that, I'll let Attorney Jennifer Robertson present, but I received the complaint and notice of hearing, and again, the rescheduled notice we'll make sure I have, but I'll let Jennifer Robertson speak to it. But my intent is to allow the complaint with the attachments into the record. And with that, Jennifer Robertson, please go ahead.
Thank you, hearing examiner Reeves. And yes, and we will also send you the notice of rescheduling, which would then be, if you take the complaint, it had 3 exhibits, 1, 2, and 3, that would be exhibit 4. So I am Jennifer, for the record, I'm Jennifer Robertson. I'm with the law firm Inslee Best Dozier and Ryder, and I'm city attorney for the city of Bonney Lake. In this case, it was similar to the last case. When the complaint was brought originally, there was no water and roofing holes in the roof. This property has since reconnected to water, but it still has holes in the roof, thus not providing adequate shelter from the elements.
From the elephant.
I know, sorry, it's a Monday. From the elements, and it is not habitable. As you know, the law provides several ways in which a property may be declared unfit for human habitation under the Bonney Lake Municipal Code 14-130-160 and Chapter 3580 RCW. The hearing examiner may determine that a dwelling, building, structure, or premises is unfit for human habitation or other use if conditions exist in such dwelling, building, structure, or premises which are dangerous or injurious to the health and safety of the occupants or other residents. The property is at 9512 203rd Avenue East, and we believe that it qualifies as an unfit dwelling. The owner of record is Michael F. Predmore II, and the tax parcel number is 294-700-1110. As the hearing examiner noted, the complaint that my office drafted is before you. That was based on information and documents we received from the city of Bonney Lake, and you have admitted the complaint and the 3 attachments to it into evidence. The facts asserted in the complaint are as follows: that Predmore, being the owner of the property, has caused or allowed the dwellings, building, structures, or premises to become unfit for human habitation in violation of the city code. On September 8th, 2022, the city issued a notice of violation to the property owner or current resident of the property pursuant to Bonney Lake Municipal Code 14-130-080, and that was served by first class mail consistent with the code. That is Exhibit 1 to the complaint. In that notice of violation, the city noted that there was no water service to the property, which created a violation of the International Property Maintenance Code, and failure to restore the water within 30 days would result in the city seeking a declaration as an unfit dwelling. There was no response or appeal of that notification. Therefore, on October 20th, 2022, the city issued a notice of civil penalty to the property owner and current resident, serving it again first class mail in accordance with the code. That is Exhibit 2. That that levied a $2,000 civil penalty against the property, which advised that failure to demonstrate that the violations have been corrected by November 10th may result in the issuance of additional notices, including civil penalties. There was no appeal, timely filed or otherwise, of the notice of civil penalty. On May 17th of this year, the city issued a notice of potential unfit dwelling to the defendant and the current resident of the property, again serving by mail. That is Exhibit 3 to the complaint. The notice of potential unfit dwelling notified the property owner and resident that the property is in violation of the International Property Maintenance Code provisions as adopted by the city under Bonney Lake Municipal Code 1504-020G, being no water service on the property and the main structure missing a significant portion of the roof. Even though the roof where it is missing is covered with tarps, the property interior is exposed to the elements and renders the property unfit. On July 8th, the city code enforcement determined that water service had been restored to the property, but the remaining of the roof of the dwelling unit is still in danger of collapse, is missing components, and renders the property unfit for human habitation under the code and under state law. The complaint was served by both certified mail and U.S. first class mail and was posted to the property. As you know, the city bears the burden of proof, and the burden is a preponderance of the evidence. Today, the city will show by a preponderance of the evidence that the property at issue is unfit for human habitation due to the lack of the roof and the risk of structural collapse. That does not keep out the elements into the property. We'll take the testimony of Shaylee Wilkinson, the city's code enforcement officer, and then I will ask the hearing examiner to do three things. One, an order finding the service of the notice of violation and civil penalty in the complaint were proper. An order requiring the defendant or any residents to vacate the property within 30 days until the code violations are abated. And we will be asking that they be ordered to cover the costs of the attorney's fees and costs of the city in bringing this action, and that it be levied as a tax pursuant to RCW 3580-030 and Bonney Lake Municipal Code 14-130-160.
Great. And question just there, and which is, so the notice of civil penalty, which is specifically related to the notice of violation, has its own appeal period, and that passed, and so there has been an appeal alleged. Just to be clear, though, today, when we're talking about attorney fees, the attorney fees applicable to what are being asked are specifically related to bringing this unfit dwelling action. Is that right?
Correct. I apologize for not being more clear. No, the civil penalties were assessed at $2,000. They have not been appealed. Those are already chargeable to the property. We are asking for the costs of this, which Shayla will testify. Our attorney's fees are $1,462 as of the end of July, and then if you add an extra hour or two for today, it'd be close to $2,000. So, and she'll testify that amount. But that's what we're asking for today, is that our attorney's fees be covered and be able to be collected against the property.
Thank you. And I just want to be clear about, because, we're still working through this whole process, and I think it's really helpful to know that, the NOV occurred and there was the notice of civil penalty and that wasn't appealed, but that is its own, I think you can verify, legally speaking, that's its own process, meaning that declaring a structure uninhabitable is its own separate, that's the life, health, safety, make sure no elephants come through. I mean, elements. And I just want to make sure that when I produce my orders that I'm clear about what is involved, not to say that the city can't seek, fines, fees in addition related to the problems with the property in the future, but I just worry about having the two things, just so we're clear on what's being asked for. Does that make sense, Attorney Robertson? I just want to
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's more of just providing you the history of efforts the city's gone to before we moved to declare it unfit. And there's been no response and no appeals of any of that.
Sure. From a due process standpoint, the property owner has, through that other process, the notice of violation process, they ought to be aware of these problems. But then, in addition, for today, Shaylee Wilkinson is about to testify, but code enforcement provided notice of the intent to do this, i.e., have the hearing examiner declare this unfit, and notice was provided. Then notice was re-provided. But just want to make sure, although they clearly relate to each other, there are slight differences in the process, and I think we're on the same page, but I just wanted to make sure you all have the same understanding as me. So sounds like we do. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. And probably helpful, and I should have said this for the last one too, one additional thing I think would be helpful at the end, is if, and I'm confident, you stated on the record what you thought your costs would be on the first matter, but for the second matter, just something I can include as an additional exhibit that says these are the exact attorney fee costs, so that I have an exact number that's included in the record. Does that make sense?
Yes, and the city does have the historic billings through July, and which we can provide to you.
Well, it really, just anything that says this is the number at the end for both matters separately, obviously. But
yes, we can do that, and then I'll add the time for today.
The adding is what I wanted to make sure.
So you're right. Okay, yeah.
There you go. And in terms of the last matter, which we heard, I hadn't thought of this, but you did clearly state on the record, this is, we're going to have to add X amount of time for today. So I think anyone, whoever owns that property, hard to say, but that would be put on, the property is put on notice of that happening, I think, is I will make the ruling that I think that was clearly delineated, but for purposes of a nice, clear record, I think it'd be helpful to have one additional exhibit. Any objection to that, Jennifer Robertson?
I do not, and I will provide that, including the information from today. Examiner Reeves, I want to make sure I have your correct email.
It'd be andrew.tlclaw@gmail.com.
.tl, like tender loving care.
There you go.
Okay, at gmail.com. Okay.
Yeah. And
okay. I will provide that to you today.
No problem. And I'll be in touch with Shaylee Wilkinson too after this to, figure out, maybe let's have a practice blue jeans. I'll create a new login with that new email. Maybe that had been part of the problem and unrelated to what we're doing right now, but we'll all get on the same page. And I know, my intent is to issue orders by the end of the week on all the outstanding matters, so that we're up to date, moving forward, ready to go. So with that, I think you were going to call Shaylee Wilkinson. Is that right?
Correct.
Thank you. Shaylee Wilkinson, you were sworn in earlier, so in addition to knowing you are a person that is going to testify truthfully, I don't need to re-swear you in, but if you could just say who you are again, because we're now on item 2.
My name is Shaylee Wilkinson, and I am the Code Enforcement Officer for the City of Bonney Lake.
Great. Thank you. And I'll let Attorney Robertson ask questions of you.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Wilkinson, how long have you been the city's Code Enforcement Officer?
Since May 16th of 2022.
Okay. And in that position, do you have access to documents made in the regular course of business at or near the time of relevant acts or conditions or events and retained as part of the city's records related to code enforcement.
Yes, I do.
And are you familiar with the code enforcement case regarding 9512 203rd Avenue East in Bonney Lake?
Yes.
It's also called, we're calling it the Predmore residence. And are all of the exhibits to the complaint ones that were in the code enforcement file for that case?
Yes.
And the exhibit 1 is a notice of violation. What is the date of that?
September 8th of 2022.
And how was that served on the property owner?
Through first class mail.
And did the city receive any communication from anyone regarding that notice of violation?
No.
And on exhibit 2 of the city's complaint, can you tell me what that was?
That was the notice of civil penalty that was issued on October 20th of 2022.
All right. And then has the city received any communication? How was that served on the property owner?
First class mail.
And has the city received any communication from anyone regarding the notice of civil penalty?
No.
And have you looked at exhibit 3? What is that?
That is the notice of potential unfit dwelling, which was sent to first class mail on May 17th of 2023.
Since May 17th, has the city received any communication from the property owner in response to the notice of to seek unfit dwelling?
Yes, I have spoken to the daughter of the. So Michael Predmore passed away. His wife, Keelan Predmore, inherited the property. Since sending these notices, she has changed it into her name. And I have spoken to Michael and Keelan's daughter, who does not live on site. She is who turned their water on for them. She's trying to help sell the property. Other than the water, nothing else has been brought into compliance.
And question from the hearing examiner real quick.
Yeah.
Not that it's as complicated as this last matter, but as far as we know, the Michael Predmore passed away, the property transferred to his wife. You've spoken to their daughter, but as far as we know, no one's living on this particular property. Is that right?
They are. Yes, there are several people living there. Keelan Predmore, who owns it, is living there, and several other unknown living in outbuildings and trailers and such.
Okay. So there are folks living on the property, and you can assert that clearly someone is aware of the notice of civil penalty, notice of violation in today's hearing. You've been in contact with the daughter, so whatever notice was provided, which you testified to, clearly folks received, someone received and is aware of the city's concerns. Yep.
Yes, and I emailed it, so I mailed it first class mail. They asked me, I believe it was Friday. It was over the weekend. I had an email and I sent the hearing information again to the daughter, the real estate agent, and they were going to forward it to Keelan Predmore.
Got it. Great. Thank you for clarifying. I'll let Attorney Robertson return to asking questions.
Okay. Sure. Thank you. So are you familiar with the complaint filed in this matter?
Yes.
And how was that served?
That was posted on site. It was mailed first class and certified, and it was recorded on the title to the house with the Pierce County assessor.
And to the best of your knowledge, are all of the facts asserted in the complaint true?
Yes.
And can you describe what the city has done to enforce its code in this case?
We have sent the notice of violation giving them time to bring the property into compliance or to contact us about voluntary compliance options like a work plan or a voluntary compliance agreement. And we did not hear anything. We issued civil penalties and still did not hear anything, and sent the notice of unfit dwelling. And it was right around the first scheduled hearing that I spoke to the daughter.
And can you tell me about the current condition of the property?
The current condition, there's been no changes. There's at least one very large pile of trash. There was some trash buried in a very large hole. I've had the police call me out to accompany them with some things. The main thing for the safety point is the front portion of the home has a roof. The back portion does not. It's covered in just tarps. And then there's, I believe, a laundry room off the back, and that portion has some sort of a plywood roof. And it's been that way since we first contacted them in September of 2022.
And when the hearing was rescheduled from July 17th, did you send them notice to Ms.
I did. I sent them.
Predmore?
I did. I sent it first class mail to the property, and I believe I emailed it to the daughter. Gabriella is her name.
And we will be submitting that to the hearing examiner, and that will be Exhibit 4. Are you aware of how much the city has incurred in attorney's fees as of the end of July in the unfit dwelling matter?
I believe it's $1,462.
And we will provide that to the hearing examiner. That would be Exhibit 5, as well as we'll be providing for August as well. That will come from the city attorney's office. That is all I have for Ms. Wilkinson at this time.
Okay. And I don't believe I have any further questions than what I asked. Checking. Okay, I think we have the information that we know has been provided, the information that will be provided. We got clarification in terms of cost, fees, et cetera, for both matters, i.e., and I want to stress, I'm not saying that it would be inappropriate for either the city or the city attorney to seek additional costs in the future related to the NOV, but there's a process for one and a process for the other, and I think we're on the same page as to the city attorney and the city will be seeking its costs related to this unfit dwelling hearing. And then the NOV again continues forward. It doesn't go away. Just even if I were to declare this unfit, that's again related but separate track. And I think we're all on the same page. Jennifer Robertson, you agreed earlier about that, correct? And Shaylee, you as someone who has to interpret the city's code, that's your understanding as well, correct?
Yes, sir. I would agree with that.
Excellent. Okay. So I don't have other questions or thoughts, but did you have anything further you wanted to add, Shaylee Wilkinson?
I don't think so. Not at this time.
Okay. I don't believe we have then anyone else participating as far as I can tell. Does that seem accurate? Yes. Okay. Anything final? I don't need a full closing. I think I fully understand, where things stand, and we know next steps in terms of me receiving everything. And as I noted, my intent is to get things out soon. I know, especially, with life safety, health, we don't want elephants coming and stepping on anyone or the elements hurting anyone on the property. I could not get away with one more elephant joke. I apologize. But Jennifer Robertson, anything final from you?
Right. I would just close with, the city has the burden is to establish that this is an unfit dwelling. We believe we've met that burden. It has not been challenged. We request the hearing examiner issue an order declaring it unfit for habitation due to the issues with the roof and the structure and the elements that could be coming in and making it unsafe for people to occupy. We're requesting that you order the property vacated and the code violations abated by the owners, and that you award the city costs and attorney's fees to be assessed against the real property as a tax.
Excellent. Okay, then I think I have everything I need, and I think with that we can conclude our hearing today. Are there any procedural matters, Shaylee, that you need to work out once the hearing's over, or we all set?
I think we're good.
Okay, well then why don't we conclude our hearing today. I thank staff, especially for moving this to today. And I think we have a plan moving forward, and I'll get orders out on these matters here hopefully by the end of the week, and then also the other two that are outstanding should be one big batch that will hopefully have everything clear, and they all should track with each other, and that would be great. So that's the plan. I thank you all very much, and with that, we'll conclude today's hearing. Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.